One, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the Blessed One, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. All right, thank you. Okay, welcome all again. Actually, today I'd like to talk about some of the stages that we might encounter when we start to practice Buddhism. Actually, there are a few kind of practitioners that I've met, especially when I was in North America. Okay, the first type I met was there was this guy. Like he is very into the spiritual practice. So remember one time after we did the meditation, right, in the Buddhist center, he asked me, like, why did I choose to become a monk? And I tell him that, well, because by becoming a monk, I'm willing to observe. There are some precepts that we follow. There's a way of life that I need to follow. So I can do many good things in my life for myself and other people. He just smiled and he told me that, well, 法师. So he told me that I know religion is good, yeah, but isn't that if we just do good things, isn't that enough? Why do we have to call ourselves like a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, or any religious people? For him, it seems that as long as we do good things, so we don't need to really becoming any religious people. You don't need to belong to any religion. Yeah. Well, I don't know how would you think about this or how you feel about that. So this is one kind of practitioners that I've come across in my path. It really made me think a lot. And why do we want to do what we are doing now? Yeah, I assume that most of us here are Buddhists, so we might be doing some practices, maybe meditation, mindfulness, or chanting of the Buddha's name, or chanting of the sutra. So why do we need to do what we are doing? Right? Isn't that like a simple or a very simple saying? As long as we do good things, that's good enough to lead a moral life. Okay, so this is one type. And to the other extreme, there are also this kind of practitioners that I always come across to. So these are the very devoting Buddhists, I would say. So, for example, if they learn about meditation, they will say, "Oh, meditation is the best medicine in the world. Anyone should just do meditation and nothing else." And for those who chant the name of the Buddha, like Amitabha, they'll say, "Oh, chanting the name of the Buddha is the best. There's no other better way of going to the Pure Land after you die." So I ask them, "How about this life? What are we going to do in this life?" So these are always this kind of argument between, like, what are the best method, or what is the one best method that the Buddha thought that we should practice instead of the others. So this made me think about the goal of Buddhism. So what do you think about the goal of actually practice Buddhism? Like, okay, if you go to the bookstore, yeah, try this tonight after the talk or maybe tomorrow. You just go to maybe Popular. I don't know, in Singapore or somewhere else, where is the most popular bookstore. You go there and you go to the Buddhist section. You try to look for books related to Buddhism. I'm sure, like at least 5 out of 10 books, you see the word happiness, right? Happiness in life, how to find happiness. It's like becoming a Buddhist is a bunch of people who just want to be happy, right? What do you mean by happy? I mean, no worries, or always in a state of don't know, bliss, or we don't need to worry anything in the world. So what I'm asking is, why do we emphasize so much on happiness when we like becoming a Buddhist? Like the first day I remember, about 20 years ago when I started to learn meditation, I remember that the first night after we practiced, that was my first time, and the monk actually asked us to share our thoughts or what we think about the practice. I remember 9 out of 10 students in the class, they just talk about, oh, how happy they feel, how like they feel when they're sitting there. They just feel like this is the best experience they ever had. And it seems like coming to practice meditation in a meditation hall is just to feel good about ourselves, to have a little peace of mind at that specific moment. So that made me think again. Are we really doing it right? Has Buddha actually taught us to find happiness in the world? Like, as far as I remember, that Buddha never really say like, oh, do meditation, find happiness, you will find happiness ever after. Actually, Buddha taught the other thing, the opposite of it. The Buddha said, what is life, right? Life is suffering. So he said that by understanding suffering and understand the mechanism of suffering and why we suffer, that without suffering, so that is a state of nirvana. But he never said without suffering, you'll find happiness ever after. So I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions that we have for today. So what I'm trying to say is when we say that, okay, I'm a Buddhist, I start to practice Buddhism, what am I actually trying to find? So for me, I've been thinking about for a long time. Actually, I find that actually Buddhism gave us more than just, if you say happiness, fine, happiness is still good, right? Happiness, but the most important thing I realize is the freedom that we are looking after. Freedom from our attachment, freedom from our bad emotions, freedom from our hatred to other people. Let's say if I don't like my neighbors very much, right? Every time I see them, I feel like the blood rushing to my head. So that is a kind of entanglement, right? That we are like giving too much burden to ourselves by disliking this one, hate that one, and don't like this and doesn't like that. So this our what the Buddha said is something the opposite of freedom. So for me, understanding and practicing Buddhism, the first goal is to be free, right? But to be free, we need wisdom. We need wisdom. So that means that we need to retrain our mind, right? Because in Buddhism, we say that the mind is a source of everything. It's a source of our experience. It's a source of our intellectual. It's a source of how we see the world. I remember a story I read a long time ago that talks about well, there was a king. So there was one time someone gave him a very expensive and beautiful carpet. So they covered his room with a beautiful carpet. So he stepped on it the first time ever. This king actually stepped on a comfortable carpet. So he was so happy, was so shocked that, oh my goodness, this is heaven. Why should everyone should be doing this? Everyone should be fitting this, should be using this carpet. So the next thing what he did was he ordered his people to cover the whole country, every single piece of land with carpets, so that wherever he goes, he can feel the same comfort. He would like to go everywhere by stepping on just carpet and not anything else. So you can see what is the dilemma he's going to cause to his people. So there was one of his very smart, well, I would say somebody next to him, and then they say that, well, yeah, honorable, I give you an idea, right? Instead of putting carpets in the whole country, why not I give you a small piece of carpet you put on your feet, right? And then wherever you go, you're like stepping on the carpet everywhere you go. So as simple as that, that solves the problem. So it's the same thing as when we say that, okay, if you want to solve all our sufferings and all our problems in the world, we try to find happiness everywhere, right? We try to do this, we try to do that. We were thinking that, oh, as long as I can buy that house, I'll be happy. As long as I save enough money to buy my dream car, the latest model of Tesla, then maybe I can find happiness. But the Buddha teaches that happiness is like we work from our heart, we work from our mind. As long as we train our mind properly by understanding what is suffering, what is happiness, it's like wrapping our feet with the carpet. So wherever we go, we can feel the same comfort. Wherever we go, we can find no suffering. So that is the importance of training the mind. So in the mind training, the Buddha actually has given us 8 principles. So these are the 8 ways. I'm sure one of us has seen it. Right will, right intention. So this is a guideline, like the most fundamental guideline that was given by the Buddha to train our mind. So he say that the first 2, right will and right intention, is about how do we gain wisdom. Right? Right view, that means that we see things correctly in the right way. Right intention, that means that whatever we do, we keep a heart of compassion. We keep a heart of not hurting anyone or the environment. So the right intention, this will give us wisdom. And the next 3 things, right speech, right action, right livelihood. You can see that this is how we live our life, right? Speech, how we talk to other people. Action, what we do to other people and to ourselves. Right livelihood, what kind of job, what kind of work we do to earn our life. So from number 3 to number 5. So these are a very vivid, clear way of or guidance for us to live our life in a proper way. Okay, so but what we are interested here is from number 6 to number 8, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So I'm going to show you that number 6 to 8. So these are the 3 things or the 3 principles that we can use to train our mind as we see in the Eightfold Path. Okay, let's talk about mental, we call it about mind, mental development. Here, I would like to suggest that the right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, as we just talked about, right? Remember the last 3, right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. So these are the 3 ways for us to actually improve ourselves, improve our mind. Yeah, instead of just saying that, oh, I'm a Buddhist, I'm doing my practice, I'm trying to find happiness. So let's talk a little bit about how do we actually do that. So what are the what is the direct instructions of doing that? Okay, let's look at the right effort. Yeah. Right effort. Effort means that whatever we want to achieve, we want to put it into our energy, our time, right? To make ourselves better. But this is a very kind of a broad term. Yeah. I remember when I was in Japan, every time we talk to our friends or even our like juniors or even our teacher, every time they wish us work hard in our job, they will say, oh, gambatte kudasai, right? They will say, work hard and work hard and work hard. So That is the instruction we get all the time. So look at our society, right? Even our parents, they always tell us that, oh, study harder, you can get better results. So when you have better result, go to a better university. When you're graduated, then you get a better job, get a better life. So always gambaru, gambaru. It means that always work hard. But have you ever think about what is work hard? How to work hard? What does it mean by work hard? Like, if I don't work hard, does it mean that I only spend 2 hours in my homework or at my job? Then working hard means that what, 8 hours, 16 hours? So is that working hard? Okay, maybe some people tell you, oh, you need to have a strategy. You need to have a plan. You need to have a to-do list. All right. So I prepare some to-do list. Okay. Let's say I want to do a PhD. Right. So what am I going to do? I need to study my language. I need to prepare for myself. I need to read many books. I need to do a lot of research into my topic. So these are the things that we do in our job, in our daily life. So how about our mind? When we say that, when we tell someone, when we see someone who is sad, when we see someone who has just being disappointed because of failure in life, we usually tell them, oh, stand up, work harder, don't worry, you'll get better soon. But how does it actually work? What is work harder in this sense? So we are glad that the Buddha actually gave us a very clear, 4 instructions of actually how to use the right effort. Okay, the first one is overcoming unwholesome thoughts. Overcoming unwholesome thoughts. Let's take anger, for example, right? Let's say that we know that we feel angry now. So what are we going to do about it? But the Buddha say that as long, like whenever we feel that we have anger arising in our mind, right, we need to overcome it. I have a very respectable friend who is a monk. He's a senior monk to me. I remember one time he told me about his practice in a very strict monastery in China. He told me that, in the traditional monastic setup, what the monks do there is they always spend like 90% of the time doing sitting meditation in the hall. So sometimes they also do walking meditation and running meditation. Yeah. So this is a traditional part. So what he said that when he first got there, he couldn't get used to the life in the meditation hall because like there are like 50 monks living in the same, small like area. And you can imagine what kind of emotional pressure they're going through. So there was this one of the very senior monk in that monastery. Actually, he told me that my friend told me that this senior monk actually didn't like him. So he always, finding some little mistakes that he did, and he just went after him. So there was one time they were doing a very fast walking meditation, right? So this senior monk is just keep hitting him. He said, walk faster, keep hitting him. But then he was getting more and more furious. He was like, why only hitting me? I'm not the only one here. Why are you always after me? So he was so angry that he looked back and stared at him. And that time, the senior monk was even getting even more angry. He said that, what are you staring at? So he hit him even harder until the wooden board that we use in the meditation hall, like it broke because of he hit too much on him. So I asked him, so what did you do? Like, did you really, did you fight back or anything? So he laughed and said, what do you think I can do? What could I do? So he said, well, so he just went back to his room. He packed his stuff and was ready to leave the monastery. So, but when he actually stepped out of that room, the senior monk came in. And then the senior monk told him that, now you see, what is torturing you is actually not me. is your anger. So my friend told me that at that moment, when he heard that statement, they say that it is your own anger that's torturing you. He just realized that what he has been gone through in his whole life. And he thought, oh yeah, there's so many misfortune that happened in his life. It's just because he always had a sense of anger in his mind and he didn't know what to do about it. So in that meditation hall, like after living with a bunch of monks and doing all this kind of very strict training, he came to see his anger very vividly. So that saying from the senior monk actually make him really aware that, oh, that is my problem. So what I have to do is my anger. It's not something outside. So this is what we say by overcoming unwholesome thoughts. Yeah, this is the first level. This is only the first level of mind training, because we know that, oh, when I'm angry, that thing we can feel, right? Oh, yeah, I can feel angry now. So I need to overcome it. So that is the first step. If we can overcome our anger, so that just seems that it is the first step, right? But the Buddha say that in order to put our more effort into it, we need to avoid unwholesome thought in the beginning, avoiding unwholesome thoughts. So this is a second step, a little bit harder than do. So how do we actually do that? So one of the methods I used to teach is whenever we feel angry, right? If we actually analyze why we feel angry, it's because, okay, let's imagine we have a someone that we feel angry at. And every time we see that person, the same emotion arise, right? Anger. So let's ask ourselves, what is it that actually make us feel angry? Which part of the person make us feel angry? Is it what he or she did? Is it because how they look? Is it because how they behave? Is it because who they are? Right? So I'm sure there's certainly one answer for it. If we feel that we don't like somebody and we think of that person in our mind now, I'm sure we can find the reason. Oh, I don't like the way he smile. Like that kind of like scary though. I don't like the way he speaks. He speaks like someone very rude. Right? No, that's definitely one specific factor that we find that we don't like about that person. So this is the way that how to deal with it. Stop looking at it, right? The Buddha told us that if we find that we don't like some particular characteristic of a person, right? Because every time we look at a person, we only look at the same thing. So the Buddha said, stop looking at that. Okay, if you don't believe, try doing this way, right? Okay, now think about a black cat in your mind, all right? A black cat in your mind. Think about it. Have a picture of a black cat. Now, if I tell you, stop thinking about a black cat. Can you stop thinking about a black cat now? When a cat is still walking? So cute. Now I tell you, stop thinking about it. The more I tell you, can you stop thinking about that? Well, pretty hard, right? The more you want to stop it, actually, the more you want to look at it. So when we come to this stage, we know that avoiding unwholesome thought actually is not as easy as we think. The more we want to avoid it, sometimes the stronger it becomes. Okay, so now it comes the third level, yeah, of how to counteract, how to deal with this problem. The Buddha said, okay, now let's try generate wholesome thoughts. Generate wholesome thoughts. Okay, let's take the same person, yeah, we were thinking about just now, who we don't like, who we have hatred towards. So let's think about this person. He may be a father to someone. He may be a husband to someone. He may be a wife to someone. He may be even be a teacher to some students, right? So he has his different roles in life. Right? Maybe he's my neighbor now, but he's also a father to someone else. So the Buddha taught us that if we want to stop looking at like the bad characteristic of that person, now try to find something that is more, I mean, more neutral of that person. You can think about, oh, he or she is a parent too, right? He must have children who love him or who love her. So if you think about the children, you think, maybe this guy or this woman is not that bad after all, right? So this is a way of try to generate some wholesome thoughts about that same person who we don't like because of something. So I think that this is a very clever way of doing it, because we try to find some positive factor from the same person who we find that there's so many bad things we don't like about. But let's say we want to find one thing that we can say, maybe I don't dislike that. I can accept it. Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, that's a beginning of generating a wholesome thought. All right, but the most difficult is sometimes that only stops our anger for a moment, right? So the Buddha say that the hardest thing in our training is to maintain the wholesome thought all the time. So this comes the real practice of mind training. Even if we find the good factor that we can focus on to change our mind, to change how we feel about that person, but that doesn't last long. Sometimes just maybe a few seconds, right? The next moment we just say, forget about everything, and we go back to the same loop about how we hate that person, how that disgusted me, right? These kind of things. So that is why the right effort is so difficult to do. Like unless if we really want to deal with our anger problem, well, maybe you can follow the footsteps of my senior monk. You can go to a very strict monastic, in somewhere in the mountain, and go through the strict training, and let someone hit you all the time. I'm sure you'll find that your anger arises all the time, and how you deal with it, that is a real training. So these are the stages of like how we put our efforts in dealing with our emotion problem. First, overcome the emotions that we think is very destructive to us, like anger, right? Overcome it. Overcome it by means of maybe try to find something that replace with, like avoiding unwholesome thoughts, right? The second step, avoid the unwholesome thoughts. It means that try to don't just look at the bad characteristic. And the third one is try to find some good one. And the last one is after we find a good one, keep looking, right? Keep looking until it become a habit. So that will help us to change our negative emotions at this moment. Right. So this is the right effort, right? We know that these are steps that we can follow. And of course, if we find that, right? I remember during a workshop, so we were doing this practice, right? So we have students divided into few groups. Then we hand each of them a bottle of Coca-Cola, right? A bottle of Coca-Cola. So what they have to do is each of them had to come up, and then they share a story of what an incident that made them angry, right? So let's say the first student came out and said, I lost my purse yesterday. I was so angry at myself. It's my new purse, and it was so expensive. So after he let go his anger, he shook the bottle very violently. Yeah, I'm so angry on myself. So he shook it. And the next person came out and say in an incident that make him or her very angry, and then they also shake the bottle. So at the end, you can imagine what happened to the bottle of Coca-Cola, right? If you have shake a Coca-Cola before, you know what I mean. The bubble that keep bubbling up, the bottle becomes so hot. I was so afraid that it will just explode in the next moment. Okay, so when everyone has finished contributing their story, so we asked them, okay, now let's imagine, right? This bottle that's full of gas is the angry person in front of you that you want to deal with right now. So what are you going to do? Well, so what I did was I hold a bottle to one of the students. I point the cap to it. I try to turn it out, turn it open, and that student just ran away. No, never. Don't ever do that, you know. So then we ask them to try to find some ways to deal with the anger, either in another person or in ourselves when it's bubbling up, right? What are we going to do? So some students say that, well, the best thing maybe is to turn away at that particular moment. Walk away. You know, don't never open it up, right? And some say that, well, I leave it there for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and see what happened then. And there was even one better way. They say, oh, I try to maybe open a little bit, let some gas out, so it won't be so filled up anymore, right? Like open up, psst, little by little, let the gas out for a moment, and then deal with it up later. Yeah, so this is what we deal with every day, our own anger of other people. So there's so many ways that we have to deal with it. You can run away, right? You can turn your back to it and don't have to face it, but that doesn't solve any problem. So this is why these 4 methods actually, which is taught by the Buddha about how we should put our effort in changing our mind, is to overcome the unwholesome thoughts, find the unwholesome thought, that the particular factor that we don't like, and then avoid that, wrong. And the opposite, try to find a good one, replace it with a bad one, and then try to hold on to it, maintain it. So this is the way to deal with anger. And so this is the right effort that we want to talk about, right? Okay, so the first stage of how to improve ourselves when we started to learn Buddhism is to know where to put our effort. Okay, so this is one example. All right, mindfulness, right? You heard about the word mindfulness all the time these days. What is mindfulness? There are 2 things actually, mindfulness. Yeah. One requirement is be present, right? Mindfulness means that your mind is fully present at this moment, at this place. So this is called mindfulness. What do you mean by our mind is not here at this place at this moment? Let's say now, like, I can see some of your faces are very focusing on me, listening, to my talking. Well, you are there, you are sitting there, your ears are listening, right? Your mind is absorbing. You try to understand what I'm saying. Well, I can say that, oh, so you have your mindfulness here, right? But what if now you're sitting right in front of me when I'm trying to explain to you what mindfulness is, you're closing your eyes. I don't know, maybe your mind is wandering somewhere else and thinking, oh, so hot tonight. Should I have ice kacang after this? Yeah, maybe ice kacang not too sweet. It's not too high calorie. Maybe some lemon tea. Oh, I cannot sleep after lemon tea. Right? So that is when we mean that our mind is not here at this particular moment. So the mindfulness is to be here, fully here all the time. So that's mindfulness. So another requirement for mindfulness is to understand, what am I thinking? What am I doing at this particular moment? Right? Knowing that I'm sitting, okay, I'm sitting, right? Knowing that I have some back pain. Oh, I have back pain. Yeah, I have back pain. That kind of knowing and understanding our body and our mind is also, that is called mindfulness. Okay, so what is a problem with mindfulness now that we seem to talk so much about it in everyday's, if you look at the television, if you look at there are so many books for, like, the chicken soup books that teaches how to find happiness, how to lead a meaningful life. They always talk about mindfulness, right? Like these books it's just too many out there. So this is actually becoming a very big problem now. I remember, like, especially I have a very first-hand experience of it. I remember a few years ago, it was long before the pandemic. I mean, I and my sibling, I and my sisters, we gave our mom an iPad, right? Because she said that, well, she felt bored staying at home. She didn't like to really go out and go out too much. So we give her an iPad. Hopefully she can read, she can see the news. Then we set up accounts of Facebook, Instagram for her to use. Well, after a few months, when I went back to see her, I just realized that how attached she is to the iPad, to the Facebook, to all the WeChat news that she could actually grab on. I remember like it was every time I try to sit down like at a dining table and talk to her, she she is eating in front of her, but the iPad is still running, right? The news on the Facebook is still broadcasting. Whenever I talk to her, I can see her eyes is actually looking at the screen instead of listening to me. So what I'm trying to say is like, oh, and then we suddenly realize that, oh, did we did it right? Is it a right thing to give my mom an iPad without telling her how to use it? But of course, that she had a lot of fun with it, right? She knew that she came to know all the news and she used to WeChat us all the time. But that was very convenient, right? But I find that I lost her attention, right? When I go back and, oh, your son just came back and then sitting in front of you, want to talk to you. And it was just, you care for, you care the messages in your WeChat more than the person sitting in front of you. So, yeah, this is the problem we are facing in a modern society, right? So just look at your smartphone, right? There's so many functions today. They try to block us, block the message from telling us there is a new message coming. Remember that this used to be a very useful function to let us know, oh, we have 10 messages, we have 20 messages. It's like, oh, wow, great, so we don't miss any. But now we want to turn it off. Why? Because you just have too many of them. Too many is never good. Right now, we even need to download another app to stop one app from showing us all the new messages. And then another app again to stop this app from doing too many things behind us that we didn't know what they're doing. So this is the problem of the cell phone, that is actually stealing all of attention, right? So have you ever tried buying something online? I don't know what is Singapore, but in Malaysia, usually we go to Shopee, right? In Japan, we go to Amazon or Rakuten. What happened is, I'm sure most of you have this experience. You just buy, let's say you buy a book, let's say you buy a book of how to bake a cake, right? You just purchase it. And then the next day, you see that they have so many advertisements running all around your smartphone or even your computer that telling you all the cooking recipes that are available in a bookstore, and you did never ask for it, right? So you start to wonder, how did they know I just bought a book on cooking? Right? That they just know. They know, right? They have all the information about how we behave online. So this is why they want to steal our attention. So if you go to the street, right, if you look at the signboards all over your head, you will feel that, oh, it's so distracting. And open up your cell phone. What you see is all advertisements, all those funny movies, and you hardly find anything that is valuable for you to read. So mindfulness here is what we want to do in today's society, to try to deal with, try to learn how to be mindful again. All right. So next week, right, is the day of our Buddha's birthday. We call that here we call 浴佛节, right? The bathing of the Buddha. So this is what we just did today. Yeah. So it's very interesting. As this is my duty here, in the temple, to show all the people who come to temple to want to participate in this ceremony of bathing the Buddha. So we have to teach them like how you use 3 scoops, right? You use the scoop to put up to score the water, and use 3 scoops to bath on the shoulders of the Buddha, of the little statue of the Buddha, to show respect and to show that we remember all the Buddha's teaching. So what we did this time was we knew that everybody who came here under the hot sun was some of them maybe feeling uncomfortable, because the sun was too hot. So some of them maybe they were rushing, and some of them they just someone just feel like, oh, I just want to finish it quickly and go. So what we did was we actually asked all those participants to just stand under the sun, join their palms together, close your eyes, and we just did the same practice we did in the beginning. I asked them to count your breath 3 times. Breath in, breath out. And then we chant Namo Ben Shi释迦牟尼佛. So we do again. They count the breath for 3 times. I can see that every time I do the practice to the group of people who come to participate in the ceremony, I can see their face, the expression, just 3 counting of the breathing, they just calm down immediately. They just stand there, started to smile back at you. And once I know that, oh, they're ready, their mind is ready, their mind is come back, their mind has forgotten all the troubles from their life, from their work, from their home. Like temporarily, they have put them down, because at that moment, they can find that their mind is back to the place where they're standing. They have mindfulness again. And then only at that point, I start to tell them the story of how the Buddha was born, how he walked 7 steps, and each step has a lotus that bloom from the ground, because the Buddha mind and body is so pure, and how the dragons water down some pure water to clean the body of the little Buddha, because all the people from all the heavenly beings and human beings were so joyful because of the birth of the Buddha. So I told them the story, and then I tried to let them to bring back to 2,500 years ago, where the Buddha was born in Nepal. So I did it for many times today, and I can tell you that every time after they finish the ceremony, you can imagine under the hot sun, this is at 12 o'clock afternoon, everybody was smiling, at least have a very comfortable and smiley face, that tell us that how mindfulness can do magic to our mind. So just being there and to feel our body is there, what am I doing? And just forget temporarily about our problems at that moment. To be mindful here again, we can find calm immediately. So this is what I was doing after I told them, okay, this is how, it's how we should do in the ceremony. So it's just a picture of me focusing on the little Buddha, right? Okay, so right mindfulness. The Buddha taught us that the mindfulness actually has 4 sections: mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of thoughts, and mindfulness of phenomena. Right? Mindfulness of the body is very simple, right? And we can actually do this at this moment. Right now, when we are sitting, you just feel that, oh, instead of thinking about other things, we just come back to ourselves, our body, and try to feel our body again. Am I sitting on a chair? Is it comfortable? Are my feet firmly touching the ground? How about my back? Am I sitting like up straight? Right? So be mindful of the body. This is something that we can do at any time, just a few seconds. So the feel have connection with our body again. So nowadays we have very big problem of our mind is we always lose contact with our body. There are some friends who always tell me that, oh, sometimes I'm so busy, I completely forget about my body and forget about eating, about drinking. Even sometimes I just need to sleep, just to lay down there like die, like I feel like a corpse, right? So this is our working life. This is what everybody has to go through all the time. So the Buddha taught us that the first step you want to do in mindfulness is try to feel our body. Is it comfortable? Is it in pain? Is it tired? So what is a message that our body is giving us at this particular moment? Right? And the next thing is mindfulness of feelings, right? As we just said, if we feel that there's anger arise in our mind, right? Before we let it go, like before we open a bottle of that Coke, so think about it for 1 second. You want to open it, or you want to let it there, sit still for a few seconds, few minutes, or even you can turn away from that feeling of anger and find something to replace it so that you won't do anything that we will regret afterwards. So mindfulness of feeling is so important because it trains our mind to not to let go of negative emotions so easily because we are adults, right? We are not children. The children usually, well, most of the time, they could let go of emotions like very easily, right? But the more training we do, like we feel like, oh, sometimes they're too disruptive. It's not nice to show them. Well, so I mean, this is adult, right? This is the mind training that we receive. But mindfulness of feelings means that as soon as we know the feeling of anger arises, we catch it, right? And stop there before it does anything bad to us. Right. The next thing is mindfulness of thoughts, right? Thoughts is like, I want to do something, I want to do this, I want to do that, but what do we actually want? Do we know that? Okay, just ask ourselves this simple question, right? Does anyone like chocolate? I'm sure, like many of us like chocolate, ice cream, right? Wow. So when is the best time to have an ice cream? I can tell you the best time of having ice cream is after a hard day of work, after a hard day of exam at school. When you come back, you just feel like an ice cream. Because why? Ice cream, chocolate, sweet things soothe our emotion, right? Make us comfortable. That is our biological body needs. Because it feels that whenever the sweetness come, our tiredness, our stress will just go away. But will it go away? Will the stress actually go away? Right? So mindfulness of thought is like ask ourselves when we are having a cup of Coca-Cola in our hand before we drink it. Ask ourselves, do I really need this? Does my mind or does my body need this? Is it, what do I actually need? Do I need the sugar in it? Is it because I feel stressful now? So do I believe that drinking the sugar drink will actually make my stress go away? Right? But usually it doesn't, right? When we are stressed, there's so many options. Go out for a walk, right? Call a friend, watch a, go to the cinema and watch a movie, or even just do a meditation, right? So that is so many options. Instead of just without thinking, usually we just grab for the ice cream or grab for the chocolate, right? So being mindful of our thought is like asking ourselves all the time, what do we need at this very moment? And understand ourselves, understand our body. Instead of just doing routinely and let all these advertisements like grab our mind and do the decision for us. So this is why we say that by increasing our mindfulness, we have control of what we will do, and then we have control of our life. But the last thing is mindfulness of phenomena. Phenomena means that whatever happens around us, right? We know that if we feel happy now, the next moment maybe we feel sad. But when we feel sad, we know that maybe after a while, the sadness will go away, will subside, and then something else will come up again. So this is what we call impermanence. So Buddhism always emphasizes on the understanding of impermanence is because impermanence gives us hope. Right? If we feel that, oh, my life is so bad, I fail in everything. But impermanence tells us that failure doesn't mean doesn't say stay the same all the time. It changes. This is why impermanence gives us understanding. Impermanence gives us hope. And if we are happy, we don't feel too happy, right? If we are sad, if we don't like let ourselves like being drowned in the sensation of sadness. So that is why mindfulness of the body, the feelings, our thoughts, and phenomena. So these are the four different areas that the Buddha taught us that we can put our effort in our training to make ourselves have better control over our thinking, over our mind. So this is what we call mental development in Buddhism, from right effort to right mindfulness. These are very clear steps given by the Buddha. Right? So if you ask me, right, what can we do in daily life to find mindfulness? Actually, I really like to take a mindfulness is something like a game. Okay, let's imagine this. If we think that our daily life is the same every day, go to work, come back to work, come back from work, driving, sitting at dining table, cooking, and at night, take a rest for a while. Don't you have time to read and go to bed? The next day, everything repeats again. If we feel that our life is like that, right? Try to do something fun. So this is like a game of mindfulness that I used to play. I remember when I was in Kyoto. So whenever I feel like I'm tired or I need some refreshing, for my mind, I will take a camera and I go out to anywhere that I can go, like in the city itself. I will take photo of the manhole cover. All right, so you think that it's a bit weird, right? But I tell you the reason behind that is very simple. Because the manhole cover is something that we never pay attention to, right? Maybe you walk past it every day, maybe a few times a day, we never pay attention to it. But if we purposely start to pay attention to these simple things in daily life, you will find that they are very interesting. Have you ever seen a manhole cover like this with a fireman, with a fire brigade? I think this is very interesting, right? But I've been walking through past it like for so long, I didn't even pay attention to it. But now when I purposely tell myself, okay, I need to take photo of manhole cover and I go to look for it. So this is what I find. Something like that. It's like, I don't know, what is it? Water? Water in a very interesting way. And this is what? Flower, I think. Yeah. And what else? You see the color, the simple design that it has. I think this is it gives me like another view of the city. So I think the people here, they have really care for the city very much. Like, oh, this is the one I like most in Osaka. Right? It has the picture of the castle and sakura, right? Sakura is the cherry blossom. So this is one of the best one I like. Oh yeah, another one, fire brigade, a very colorful one. So in Osaka city. Oh, this one during the fall season, yeah, where the maple leaf is just laying around, and I think, wow, it's just a picture to me. It's a very beautiful painting. So what I'm trying to suggest is try to find some time every day. Do something you find that you never pay attention to. Like go out, you can look for something. Let's say, oh, let's start look for public phone. Or maybe you can't find any now. If you can find one, there must be something very valuable. Or you can say that, oh, try to pay attention to all kinds of CCTV? You know that now we are living in a city where CCTV is everywhere. But have we really paid attention to them? How they look like, where they're hiding, what their purpose, what their color, whether they can turn 360 degrees or just turn halfway. Have we ever paid attention to them? No, if not, maybe try tomorrow, right? When we go to the office, when we go from the house, walk on the street, look around, try to find if there's any CCTV around, try to snap photo of it, and then we collect a group photo and we see. Maybe you can find a different perspective of a city that we're living in. So this is the first training for myself, at least for my mindfulness. Be mindful of my very mundane daily life that seems to be same every time, every day. But now I find something that I never pay attention to, and I start to feel alive again. So this is something that simple that we can do to train our mindfulness. Yeah. So right concentration, this is specifically related to practice of meditation. So we are not going to talk too much about it, because once we start doing meditation, you can find that right concentration gives us the power of attention, right? So it also has 4 stages. First stage is reasoning, investigation, and then joy of tranquility, indifference even to tranquility, and the end, detachment from the body. So it tells us that if we practice meditation, we are actually going further and further in the way of Buddhist practice. So in conclusion, Buddhist practice is not just doing something good, or it's not just finding happiness. Buddhist practice, it teaches us how to use our right effort, you know, in changing our emotions, in changing our behavior, and how to find the right mindfulness in our life, make our life interesting again, make our life worth living again. And then if you want to go even one step further, we should do meditation. And then in meditation, we can even find more peace in ourselves. We can even find how busy our mind is. And then we can know, oh, I really want to train my mind even better. So this is the mental development as the different stages that is listed by the Buddha. This tells us how actually we can train our mind in becoming a better self. All right, so I think we can have about a few minutes for if you have something to share or you want to have any question. I pass it to Shane.
All right, thank you, Venerable Yumin, for the great sharing. At least for myself, the takeaway for today is to remind me why into Buddhism. For me, for us, we want to have more wisdom, to gain more wisdom, so that can free ourselves from sufferings, and of course, happiness will come. And the next session that we want to go into is on question and answer. Well, in the chat box now, currently, we do not see any